Right, so hello everybody. Welcome to the latest RAFFA Vets podcast. Another week closer to the restrictions being lifted. Hopefully a bit of news this afternoon for us over in the UK, which will hopefully mean another week closer to us meeting up for a beer and a spot of football, real football, not reruns from FA Cup in 1972, but actual football that we can watch and play, which I'm sure we're all looking forward to. So this week, really creepy title, but we're actually in Coach's Corner. And on the call with me are three of the coaching team from the backroom staff, headed up, of course, by the gaffer. Matt, how are you?
Yeah, all good. Thanks, Robbie. Yeah, thanks for having me on there this evening. All good, to be honest. Personally, morale sort of levelling out. But yeah, it's a roller coaster as it is for everybody. I'm very much in my line of work. We create that team ethos, keeping people high as much as they can, as far as being productive and keeping it real. But there's no doubt about it. It's been tough at times. However, we're seeing some big light at this side of the tunnel in Belgium. With restrictions, we've probably gone to stage 2 now, as far as restrictions being lifted. And tomorrow we get further restrictions. So actually, we can not just go to the garden centre, but we can go to the cake shop as well, which is just
must be a big bonus for you, that.
I'll raise a glass to that. Happy days. No, it's there's in a nutshell, it's definitely been tough, and I would probably foresee that being the same for most. But there's some real positive things happening on this side of the channel. So yeah.
Good stuff.
Really pleased to be here with yourself and fellow colleagues.
Cool. So also joining me, head coach, Wilky. Wilks, are you all good with you, mate?
Yeah, all really good. Thanks, Robbo, and honoured to be on this panel tonight. So hopefully everybody's doing really well. Mrs. W's working extremely hard. Lockdowns, absolutely fine with the family and everybody's well. So that's an absolute bonus. I've been a little bit distracted because I've had a dissertation to complete, so no doubt Gilly will give me plenty of sympathy in that area, and I can see light at the end of that tunnel anyway, Gilly, at last. So within a couple of weeks I should have completed that. But delighted to be here, Robbo, and I'll enjoy speaking tonight.
Great stuff, mate. So last but not least, in Coach's Corner, the over 50s gaffer, Craig Gill. Craig, how's Morocco?
Last I checked, mate, it was warm and sunny. Had a bit of a video call with them last week. Obviously, they're in the same situation as us, actually. Probably more so, in fact. They're probably more stricter than with the lockdown. So they have to get permission to leave the house. If it's for business, everyone has to wear a mask outside. But yeah, the weather looked wonderful, blue skies and sunshine. So hopefully I can start that adventure in July.
Fingers crossed. Always sunny, just like Newport then, yeah? No change.
Absolutely. Home from home.
Fantastic. Well, thanks ever so much for taking up some of your Sunday just to join us. Hopefully this is going to be like a good topic to come on to. So later in the podcast, we'll be getting all three of you to put together a best RAF 11. Plus, to even it up, Craig, you're going to get the super sub, the game changer as well. The criteria being that you'd have had to either played with them or coached them over your careers. So I know I'm looking forward to hearing your picks, and I'm sure we haven't shared this with each other, so these are like the first time we'll hear each other's picks today, and we'll be ripping them apart pretty quickly, and I'm sure anyone that's watching will be ripping them apart pretty quickly as well. So I'd imagine they were pretty difficult choices to make because you would have seen so many players across your time. Craig, how did you find putting these together? Interesting, I suppose.
Really interesting, and like Wilky said, honoured to be invited, really, to be part of this this forum. But yeah, especially having been given the strikers to look at, because as you can imagine, over 86, 87 was my first season with the RAF squad, and I've seen some quality over the years, obviously. So just listing the names alone was hard enough, and then to try and pick a top two out of that, yeah, tough order, but I'm looking forward to the discussion, shall we say?
Great. Wilkes, how many people have you upset on your list?
I don't think I'll upset many, but I've reached back a little bit. So I've reached back as far as 78, just to put some context to where we're at. I've started at around about 87 when I joined the RAF. So the selection from my back four will be from my time with the RAF squad. And then I've also identified a number of players that hope we'll see with the vets soon, who've probably brought the RAF in more recent times in that back four. So try and link them all together.
Fantastic. Matt, easy for you, picking 3 to play alongside yourself in there?
Yeah, it's pretty much of a given, really, that number 8 shirt, to be fair, but enough about me. No, I thought it was extremely tough. I did similar to Martin. Of course, I don't know necessarily where he's coming from, so there's potential crossover there as well as there is with Craig's. So I'm sure there's 9s that can slip into midfield roles, and so I'm unsure where they're going. Hopefully, I don't snooker Craig because I think I'm on before him, and hopefully Wilky doesn't snooker me. But one of the criteria I looked at was imagining that everybody was in their heyday, so there was a constant. So actually, you had to pick them in their best time of the year. So not someone who was entering the twilight of his career that was better than perhaps someone just starting out, but giving everyone an opportunity. If I hadn't seen them play in the highlight, but I had played with them in their twilight, trying to even it out and understand how good they really were in their highlight, and also perhaps if I coached them along the way as well in their highlight. Perhaps they've not yet reached it, touching on Wilky's area of potentials in the future, potentials right now. Guys coming in right now in the Air Force very recently are right in my selection criteria. So, I've managed to sort of waste a few minutes and some Guinness and Coronas over the week discussing it with myself. So it's been very interesting.
Brilliant. Okay, so we're going to come on to that. That'll take up a lot of time, I expect. Good. It's absolutely fine. I just want to tie up a few loose ends about what's been going on. So just coming to you first, Wilkes. Obviously, a season's now done. Looks very unlikely, or would certainly be very difficult to get anything going again, in the foreseeable future. So just looking back across the year, what were your thoughts on kind of how it went, from the full year, from a coaching perspective?
I think it was always going to be difficult to repeat, first and foremost, because we did so well as a group on and off the pitch the season before, and it culminated in an outstanding inter-service victory. But taking that forward, fixture list has been another challenge. Certainly the international tournament in Cardiff was a real stretch for a squad. But it gave us some great games and some great opportunities to reflect on where we started to build again. So Cardiff was a memory that I really enjoyed, but it stretches to the max. And I think they culminated in that tournament with a 0-0 draw at the end of 3 very difficult games. I think, Gilly, you ended up on the pitch on the 3rd game, and I think it was a case of just roll as many people out as we could on that final day. But a really interesting weekend. England over 50s, Man City at St George's Park. Another 2 difficult fixtures. I think the gaffer got his hairdryer out for a moment. That was maybe the first appearance of the hairdryer this season. And then Real Vets and Liverpool in November was another tough ask, but 2 great victories there. So fixture-wise, done really well. Finished in January with Wales over 40s and Wootton Bassett. So once again, the hairdryer came out against Wootton Bassett, but it reset things for the squad. And going forward, it was a realisation that we knew the Army and Navy would build again. And we saw the Army definitely built again. So absolutely great that we beat the Army 1-0 on our home turf, setting up another opportunity to win the inter-services. But COVID-19 steps in, and let's see where it goes from here. But all in all, really good fixtures again, reset and building for the squad. Over 50s, Gilly will probably touch on that. That's definitely evolving for the future. Welcomed in a new president. Paul Thorogood's now joined us, and that's a great addition. And then some of the newer players, Stevie Norton made his debut for us this year, Danny Dixon and Scotty Laurie. So great to see those and some younger members joining us as we transition, probably a transitional year, transition on the pitch below and over 35s, below 50s, and transition and building at over 50s and above, and see if we can develop that area. So that's it from me.
It was very diplomatic of you to say that the gaffer got the hairdryer out down in Wales against Wilton Bassett. I thought he actually started throwing the hairdresser at people. I didn't realise Alex Ferguson did that. Thought Stevie Yobbo did a great job on repairing the kit box, though. That was fantastic.
I think Runners would take the credit for that. He ran out of bodge tape.
Yeah. I think there's an invoice on the way. Gilly, obviously, with your commitment to your doctorate this year, yours is quite often a watching brief, especially when you came to the Army game. So how did you see that game in particular from your kind of perspective?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think we've all agreed that, it was a 1-0 victory in the inter-services, and ultimately at the beginning of the season, that's our aim, isn't it, to win inter-services, and by hook or by crook, as long as we get results to a fashion, I think that's the primary aim. That said, with the RAF ethos and methodology and philosophy, if you like, we want to do it in the right way. Building up from the back, playing through midfield, etc., etc. But I thought the Army typically didn't let us do that, because that's what the Army are good at. They're good at breaking up play, and they're good at playing in your faces, as it were. I thought we started off very brightly. We got an early goal, obviously, with Scott Laurie, which was great, set us up nicely. And then at times, I thought, because of the way the Army played, they didn't allow us to play freely. So as a consequence, I thought we struggled a little bit with our passing game, if I'm honest. But then again, we coped really well with what they threw at us. I thought the back four and Stu Algar goal was superb. Midfield at times was a little bit spread, but Wilky and I had a chat about that, and Wilky had a few words at half time and put that right, I think. Yeah, all in all, I'm very looking forward at some time to taking on the Navy and obviously hopefully winning the services again.
Yeah, certainly one, where you come away from there, put it in your back pocket, get on the bus, have a beer and have a bit of a laugh. Absolutely. Thanks very much. Yeah. Let's not talk about that one again. Brilliant. So Matt, just coming to you, as I say, kind of, it does look as though it's tough to get anything going again this year. But there's still an awful lot of things going on in the background that people don't see. So obviously everyone would have seen we've sent out a feedback survey. So can you just elaborate on what the purpose of that was and kind of what the response has been like?
Yeah, no problem. The survey's been pretty interesting. So if you reflect as a family for 1 minute about, let's go back to 2003, when I certainly played a game for Mali when he was running it. We played 1 or 2 games a year. Dunny took it over from Mali, did a great job bringing the inter-service fixtures through, and then we relinquished it from Tony 6 or 7 years ago. And then we kind of brought it on so it was a fixture. It was fixtures throughout the year, not just inter-services or the odd 1 or 2 friendly. And if you look at the progression everybody as a family's made, it's been immense. It's tremendous. And what the survey ultimately was intended to do was, first and foremost, give people a say. So we're not autocratic here. We're certainly consultative, and we're certainly asking people for opinions. We don't have the answers to everything. All we've done is move the fag packet from one size to another size to another size, and now we're getting a quite big fag packet as we take it forward. But we want people to have a say. It's their family, and we want the ideas, and we want everybody to be part of it. So I think the survey is not just a how good or how bad are we doing. It's what have you got that we don't know, and we don't know what we don't know, which is a glass to state the obvious. But there's that much experience in our family. When you look at the 358 members, we're just trying to suck that blood from them, suck those thoughts. And it can be quite hard at times, as we've all acknowledged at some point. But a survey is certainly one aspect we can bring to the floor to say, okay, what do you think about this? This is what we put on for you as a committee. What do you think? So we're asking for a yes or no, good, bad, ugly. And I'm also leaving options to say, what's your ideas? What have you done in your local club? What have you done elsewhere? What have you done in your semi-pro club? What can you bring to us that perhaps, there's some good ideas. We actually issued the results this morning. Some great comments on there. Why couldn't we do a family day? Why couldn't we do a club 11v11, have a social, have an AGM, have a social at St George's Park, have a dinner and dance? So just some of the topics and some of the things that people are bringing by the vehicle of a survey, it's great. Probably less results, as in we've had 40 commit. So that's probably slightly disappointing personally. If I'd look at it and go, okay, 358 members, 96 paid, I'd at least liked a good percentage at 96 to commit their 6 or 7 minutes. So that's probably disappointing, admittedly. But we've got 40 opinions, and hopefully we can look at those committee and say, yes, we can do this. Or can we consolidate? Can we get bigger? Do we need to shrink there? But it helps us and it informs the committee. So most importantly, informs us what the membership think and what their ideas are. So quite pleased that we've come up with the survey and other ideas such as that's going on that people are bringing to the floor. Like Jimmy's got things in the pipeline with his ideas for the comms area, and obviously with yourself and Yorkie. So the comms team are working hard to come up with innovative ideas that we can bring to the floor to keep people connected in these testing times that we're all taking part in. So overall on that element, which is the interaction element, lots going on, and like you say, there's lots of other stuff going on. The committee's up and running with Sarah and Sully working through the fixtures list, having a plan. Sully working on paying bills that are coming through now, making sure we've got memberships with Rudy. So that's our next big challenge. Is let's get the memberships in. Let's tell people what they're going to get for the money. Let's give them that comfort blanket that, do you know what, if the season didn't start till next year, hey, no problem. It just means we're going to push the membership to the right, and instead of finishing in May, we're going to slip it to December, and we'll use a calendar year, but it won't be wasted money. It'd be money used for ops costs, which ultimately is St George's Park. It's the good things that we use the money for. So we need to just up the encouragement to commit when they can, and that's really fine whenever they can. So lots going on, Daz.
Yeah, I think as you say, that's important that people understand that even though there's no football taking place on the grass at the moment, there's still lots of work going behind the scenes. Still money to be paid out to secure facilities so that when we do go again, kind of everything being in place for them, and also still paying for the things that we've already had as well, because just like any business, kind of you get invoiced after for it, don't you? So that's so as you said, the next big thing coming up. So there will be an AGM.
Yes, Dave Arscott's working hard on running a virtual AGM, which is something we've tried for the last 2 years. Fairly successful, could be better, so there's always room for improvement. But he's also looking at this new Facebook. Facebook Rooms are bringing out a selection soon, which is similar to this, but it'll be like a video conferencing with enabling up to 50 people to take part. So once that hits our app within the next week or two, that will create the ability to run a virtual AGM here and now, and the committee will set the agenda, and hopefully we could potentially run a virtual AGM. So Dave's looking at those possibilities, but again, as per the calendar, it'll run early next month.
And 50 people on a messenger rooms call. Did you not watch Rooney and Maka when there was only 4 of us on the other week? Are you sure this is wise to get so many people in one video call?
No comment. Absolutely no comment.
It
was only missing the ski and the tongue.
It'd be like a Royal Rumble. Okay, fantastic. And obviously the AGM virtual, but again, it's just prodding people to commit, because we do need, it's pretty much an extension of the survey. We need their feedback and kind of answers to those. So as many as people as possible, and even if you prod your mate that you're with as well, kind of make sure they're taking part. Right, let's draw a line under that then. Everybody ready? Let's get down to the nitty-gritty then. Okay. You ready? So let's see how many people we make happy. Let's see how many people we can make not so happy. I say we, it's you three that's picking, so I'm just removing myself from this, right? Okay, so let's set some ground rules. Okay, so this is purely opinion based. It's purely for a bit of fun. So we're not intentionally upsetting anybody. You know, 4 people in this. We've all been liked by gaffers. We've all been hated by gaffers. We've all been moved on. So this is purely a bit of fun. So we're going to go old school 4-4-2. Pretty standard through all our careers. 4-4-2. Get it, smash it up front, and then go and fight for the bits. Gilly, you must be coming out in a cold sweat there.
I was quite happy to go with the first international game up in Scotland at Partick, 1870, where they played a 1-2-8, which would have suited me because I've got about 28 strikers here. So picking 8 from 28 would have been about right, actually.
Again, fantastic research, Gilly. Well done, mate.
Thanks.
Well, can I just ask, is there any right replies that we can get disclaimers signed before we issue these names so no one can come back at us?
Did you not receive the NDA that I sent round?
I've signed mine, subject to solicitor's approval, mate. Yeah.
Don't worry, this isn't going out anywhere. It'll be heavily edited. Okay, so we're going to go 4-4-2. Just let everybody know how we've kind of gone about it. We haven't discussed with each other, or you haven't discussed with each other. So there may have to be some thinking on the feet. If there is any duplication, you may want to swap one out very late doors. Wilky, you're a defender back in your day, so Wilks is going to take care of the back 4. Matty, always playing midfield. So Matty, you're going to have the pick of the middle of the park. And Gilly up top with the Glory Hunters. So obviously you've only got 2. So we're going to give you the pick of the goalkeeper because you probably slotted past most of them. Either that or you've just been shouting at them from 60 yards away, telling them to get it to you. And you're also going to have the super sub as well. So we'll have 1 sub, super sub, who you bring on as the game changer, all right?
Great.
Okay, so we're all sat nice and comfy. Wilkie, we're going to begin with you, mate. So if we just start with your right back.
Okay, so right backs. I joined the Air Force in '87, and as you know, I did 3 years at training at Halton. So winding the clock back a bit. But before my time, I thought it was worthy of mentioning a few people. So I definitely don't envy Matt Beattie or Gilly with the amount of players they've got to choose from. But defenders prior to my time that were really influential and could have made the cut had it been a bit earlier were Mark Edwards, Stevie Blackmore, Graham Hearn, Davy Dodds, Dave McDermott, and perhaps Johnny Bartley. I didn't know where Johnny played, but they were names that when I did a little bit of research were definitely one of the leading footballers of their time. But at right back, when I joined up at station level, I was fortunate to be coached by Plucky, and we'll talk no doubt a little bit later about Plucky's influence on my career while I was a young apprentice. But at right back, Pete Lahair was about. At station level, Gaz Meadows was knocking about. Stevie Forster was knocking about. But my first memory of one of the picks who was in contention was Stu Holt. So we all know Holty. Very bubbly character, loads of talent. And I first met Stu when he arrived for an under-23 training camp at Honington. He was very big into the Stone Roses at the time and probably could have joined them at that time as well. But the pick for me at right back at that time, and he did 9 inter-service appearances. So absolutely fantastic player, supremely fit, could also play in midfield, technically sound. I thought he was really calm under pressure. And when we went out to Washington, he was a very, very good friend to me at the time, and an absolute gentleman off the pitch. So my pick at right back goes to Sean Pennell. Over to you, boys.
I think we've got some agreement there. I know. The boys will probably want to chirp in. Matty, you look as though you bit your tongue for about 30 seconds there.
Oh, I thought it was going for the ultimate, chopping my head off. But no, great selection. I'd comment on Sean Pennell. Sean was one of the senior players when I first started appearing for RAFFA XI. So I went out to RAFFA XI quite early in my career, sort of 89, and he was exquisite. He wasn't quiet. He was generally quiet, but he wasn't when you're with him. He was bubbly, he was funny, but he also on the pitch, he really, really helped me. Certainly himself and Paul Weeble really helped me in the command games that I was letting myself in for, because obviously service football is very different to civvy football. But it is now, and it was back in the day. So what I found amazing with Sean was when he played for John Jones for RAFFA XI, he could play left and right peg very, very comfortably, but he could do a job going forward. And he played in a BAOR game, so the Intercommands in Germany, which is ultimately still a very competitive game, Army Germany against RAF Germany, and he played up front for us, scored the winner 1-0, ugly game, went home, everyone's happy. Sean scored it. Great player, great guy, and yeah, fully concur with that, Wilky.
Oh, Sean as well, Craig?
Yeah, great choice, Wilky. Probably gets my vote, mate. I've never seen a player probably with a better engine. I've been able to join in, overlap, and then recover and get back, and then keep doing that for a full 90 minutes. Unbelievably fit, Sean Pennell. Another one which I just like to throw in a mix was Matty Pitts, PTI, who played into services sometime after Sean, obviously, slightly different era probably. But again, very much like Sean, great engine, great technique, great deliverable ball, great cross with the ball, who I believe is now out in New Zealand, I think.
Well done, Wilkes. You got off really lightly with that right back choice, haven't you?
So far, there's only 4 in this group.
Go on, mate. Let's go over the other side then. Left hooker. They always make the game look easy, left peggers. So come on, who we got over the other side?
Okay. On the left-hand side, I'll start off with Andy Martin, because he was a bit of a midfielder and dropped in there as a young under-21 Colt. And then I played most of my games at under-21 level with Lenny Brayshaw. And Lenny had a fantastic career with the RAF. Lenny represented the RAF in 8 inter-service years, which is phenomenal. But he's only 3rd pick. So there was 2 players ahead of Lenny on my list. First one has been a fantastic friend over recent years since playing. He was probably the best station manager of my time in the Air Force, and has also captained the Air Force and represented the inter-services on 9 occasions. So that's Glenn Hadcraft, who was my assistant with the MDS when I was there for 4 seasons, and when I managed the SRT for 4 seasons. So 8 years together, manager and an assistant. So Glenn had a fantastic career with the Air Force. But my pick at left back was a player I met at Halton. Mentioned him earlier. Unbelievable talent. Could play anywhere at station level. I remember a goal he scored when I was at Halton. He picked it up in the left back slot, beat 3 or 4 players in midfield, then pushed it round a full back, cut inside and curled it in the top corner from left back. So an amazing goal that. And I also partnered him when we were doing some rugby tackling, and I don't know if it was his choice or my choice, but I remember trying to tackle him square on, and not being a rugby player, it wasn't the best choice. So it was like trying to remove an oak tree out of the ground, and he smashed me to bits. And how I didn't break my body at that time is just, I don't know, no idea anyway, but I still remember that. So my choice goes to Al Pluckrose. Fantastic player. Represented the Air Force on 10 occasions, inter-service level. Great ambassador for RAF football, and I think he's sunning it up cycling in Spain at the moment. So hats off to Al, and he gets my pick for left back.
I think you'll get away lightly here as well, Wilkes. I mean, my story with Plucky, I was in the Falkland Islands with Plucky, and his idea of fun was in the 5-a-side hall, was 1-on-1, full pitch. You could only score inside the D. And there was 3 of us there, and this is who I had to play against. Plucky, and Mad Dog. And there was just 3 of us playing for an hour and winner stays on.
It's a bad choice, that one, Robert.
It was, mate, it was.
It got you fit, though.
Yeah. Well, Gilly, Plucky, good for you as well?
Oh, yeah. Oh, without a shadow of a doubt for me. As a fellow player, obviously, it was the same year as me, Plucky. And I was fortunate to play both RAF and Combine Services with Plucky. And not too dissimilar story to Wilky's, actually. We went on tour to the Middle East after Gulf War I, as the flag waving thing for with the Combine Services. And one morning, the RBPTI, who was the physio at the time, he was told to take us on a bit of a fitness session. So we thought it'd be a good idea, first of all, if we jumped in a pool, did 4 widths of the pool, and then got out the pool. Then you had to pair up, back to back, lock your arms, and then have a strength test, and you have to try and pull your partner over to one side or the other. And of course, being 2 RAF mates together on the same tour, I ended up with Plucky. Now, at that time, when I played, I was, 8 stone soaking wet. Plucky was built like a prop forward in the nicest sense of the word. And he just basically ragdolled me for 20 minutes, really. Yeah, and all I can remember is probably not being able to lift my arms for the rest of the tour, to be fair. But yeah, so Plucky, ultimate sort of professional as well, really, because not only was he a fit guy, obviously being a PTI, he represented at the highest level of non-league, the conference with Slough and Aylesbury, amongst others, and really was the epitome of a serviceman playing football, non-league, but able to do it at the highest level. So for me, yeah, absolutely, Wilkie, you get my vote there, mate.
Matt, you get to see, you've seen Plucky a few times recently as well, haven't you?
Yeah, we're in touch, actually. We've got a regular sort of annual event where we drink, socialise, and pull up a few sandbags. So yeah, we make a point of hooking up at least once or twice a year under the hot sun. There's a song about that. And yeah, we chew the fat. I was fortunate enough to play with Plucky, albeit only a few times. So my games were limited with him for the Air Force. But I concur with everything that's been said. But I think what's coming out with Wilky selections is just how hard a job this actually is to select. But certainly Rhino gets it for me. And I agree with Craig's comment wholeheartedly of the professionalism of the gentleman. He really is. And I know he's very, very well thought of away from the services in the non-league games as well, in the non-league field. So you're doing all right so far, Wilk. So well done, mate. So that's it from me.
Here we go then, mate. So old school RAF centre backs. So are they actually in prison at the moment? Have they killed any centre forwards by going through the back of them? Who you got, mate? 2 centre backs. Okay,
I'll rattle a few off to start with then. So players that I played with and were fantastic players. Neil Wilson, of course. His dad was a World Cup winner in Ray Wilson. Really talented footballer. Didn't play too many times for the RAF, but such a great talent. Was Robinson, we all know was well. Absolute beast of a centre half. Had some great times with Was over the years. Great to see him with the vets now. Obviously Trigger, Brian Johnson, Pete Harrison, other great footballers of my time. But in terms of RAF representative footballers, there were 4 in contention. 2 newer guys towards the end of my career, and 2 earlier guys. So number 4 was Brian Kyle. 6 inter-service competitions, formidable defender. And I met with Brian and brought him on board with the MDS, got so much to offer. Being a great professional throughout his career in RAF football. It would be good to get him on board with the vets at some point. Then there was Gary Watton, Gaz Watton, towards the end of my time, really, 97, 98, 99. And Gaz came in from, I think it was Sheffield United or something like that. Another fantastic footballer, really talented, calm under pressure. Probably one of the new breed type of centre halves. So my first pick at centre half is a guy who's been absolutely outstanding for the Air Force and a great ambassador throughout his career. He's also a great ambassador for us. And so my first pick at centre half would be Jeff Hancock's. Jeff, supremely talented, was playing for the Air Force when I joined the Air Force, but also played whilst I represented the Air Force, and ended his career towards the time when I was coming towards the end of my career. So he played 10 inter-service competitions I'm aware of. So, but for me, Jeff Hancock gets one of the slots, and I might as well stop there, guys. You can chip in, and I'll go through my other choice in a minute.
Jeff will listen to this. It's not on Facebook, so he only gets his COVID-19 news off Facebook.
Yeah, it's a tough one to argue with that, Wilky. I think it's a tremendous decision. Yeah, everything's been said. You're having an absolute blinder, son.
Oh.
Shall we go on?
Ticks my box, Wilky, yeah.
Well,
okay.
The first time I saw Jeff, do you remember we used to play against, is it AFA down in London somewhere? Big like civil service or something. And I turned up. I forgot where it was, so I actually turned up late and I wasn't picked. So I was walking out after grabbing a cup of tea. And I was walking out to the pitch, and there was quite a few people on the side. There was no barriers or anything like that. There was quite a few people on the side, and there was a ball played in the channel, and Jeff's gone across to like shadow his centre forward, and then he's gone through the back of them, and the guys ended up going through this line of the crowd in the air and ended up like about 5 foot off the pitch to the other side. And I was like, oh, quite new to RAF football. I don't think that's the kind of thing for me.
Okay, so but my second choice then. This guy was in the Air Force, played for the under-21s prior to me joining, but was in the Air Force side throughout all my time there. And he actually played for the Air Force on 12 inter-service competitions, so an outstandingly long career. My favourite story is back in the day, the under-21s used to play the Air Force team early on in the season. So this player knew that and didn't really want the run around against the under-21s. So Gaffer at the time, Nigel Quincy, invited him to take a training session at Uxbridge the day before we played the Air Force team. So what we did was loads of bunny hops, loads of crouched walking, and we were oblivious to the effect that would have the next day. But let's say about 5% of us managed to make it to the mess breakfast hall in time, because nobody could walk downstairs forward. We had to go downstairs sideways. And for the first 25 minutes, I think the under-21s played slower than the vets played because we couldn't run. So he absolutely did a number on us. And I think we were 3-0 down before we could even start to walk properly and run properly. So my second choice at centre-half goes to Mark Mallinson, who was a fantastic player, could play in the modern game as a holding midfielder probably, and could also play sweeper. But he was a ruthless, demanding character, and would do anything to win, as I bear testament to. So my choice goes to Mally.
I'm sure we've all had a rear bent by Mally, haven't we?
Some publicly, some not publicly.
Another great choice, Wilky, for me. Yeah, another one from my era, particularly, and like Jeff, really, a natural leader, I think. Very vocal, but led by example as well, just like Jeff. So yeah, those two centre-half pairings, can't fault you, mate. Superb.
Yeah, well done, Wilky. That's a great decision on there. Certainly Jeff and also Mally. I think one of the first Vets games I played with Mally at the centre midfield. So obviously he's even though it's Vets football, he is able to play midfield as well. But we played against the Navy down in Portsmouth, and they guested Chris Kamara And it was myself and Mali in the centre of the park, and Chris Kamara was playing the centre of the park for them. And I think we were like 3-0 up with 10 to go before half time, and they had a free kick in about, I think I gave a foul away 30 yards from our goal, and Chris Kamara was going to take it. And he wasn't, because Paul Willits was going to take it. And Paul Willits, who's one of their centre midfielders, because they had a stand-up argument in the middle of the park, and me and Mally were in the wall like this, just saying this. And he said, "What's so fucking alright?" Anyway, we're having a bit of banter, and ultimately, Willits just took it before Kamara could and skied it over the bar. Anyway, subsequent to that argument, Chris Kamara, who's guest of honour, never came out for the second half, and he went home with a hump on. And I think we won that game 3-0, 3-1, but again, Mally.
Was it 4, I think, mate, wasn't it?
Was it? What was the score, Craig?
4-1, was it, I think?
4-1, yeah. It was comfortable, wasn't it? But it's the will to win that playing next to Mally, he gave you another 5-10% that you didn't have before, because you'd have how you prep yourself, but he gives you additional as a teammate. So I felt that playing next to him, even in the vets into services. So that was the 2003-4 time. But yeah, great choice, mate. Well done.
Excellent, Wilkes. That's quite smooth, mate. That was. Didn't fancy squeezing yourself in there as a right back, no?
No, I was a good water carrier. But there were some great choices in front of me. I'll just quietly finish off. So Nick DeLong, Lewis Brownhill, probably the modern era. Duff and Pearce on the left-hand side. Danny Dixon, Scotty Fuller, Carl Evans, Scotty Henley coming through towards the end. So, you know, there's some future vets on the radar in defending terms. So I look forward to that.
Yeah, hopefully, mate. Hopefully. Brilliant. All right, Wilkes. Well,
can I just add to that as well? I think Graham Hearn is very much worthy of mention as well. And I think you mentioned Dave Dodds as well, mate, earlier on, didn't you, as well?
I did. Mark Edwards, Blackie, Graham Hearn, Doddsy, Dave McDermott.
Oh,
yeah. They would be prior to my time, Gilly. So, yeah, but they had excellent RF careers, all those players.
Absolutely.
You could not have Brock and Mally in the same team. Jesus Christ, the moaning would just never stop, would it?
I made my debut for Strike Command with Brock and Hanksy at centre back, so I was centre forward, and I just joined the Air Force. I just fresh out of PTI training, turned up at Uxbridge, shook hands with everybody, went out, did the warm up, started the game. I think Hanksy fired one into a corner, just one of those, you know, just turn and chase it rolls, you know. So I stopped. It was like he knocked it about 30 yards, way wide of me, you know, over the fullback's head. So I turned around and looked at him from the halfway line. He started to give me a hard time. Brock joined in and started to give me a hard time. So I give it back, you know, and of course I was a young 20-year-old PTI or whatever. I don't think they expected it, to be fair. And I said, well, look, if you give it to my feet in the first place, I can do something with it. If you're going to shell that all afternoon, I'm not interested. You might as well sub me now. And I don't think they quite know how to take it from a young 20-year-old would-be PTI. But having said that, a great pairing. And as I said, you know, Hanksy had a fantastic career. Again, a non-league as well at Gloucester City particularly, amongst others.
Yeah, absolutely. Easy. Well done, Wilkes. Gaffer, onto the midfield.
Yeah, this was a tough gig, if I'm honest. Yeah, there's some really good players that I certainly had the pleasure to play with, play against, and maybe coach in between time. I think it's also worth noting that there's an awful lot of respect to the players that don't necessarily represent football as well. So I strongly believe the rep players are made because of the players they play with at maybe slightly lesser levels. So the station level players, they really help the representative players in their achievements. So I think it's also worth noting that some of the maybe non-rep players have some credit to take from how well the rep players have played. But I'm going to go to right midfield straight away, and certainly some of the players that I'd put in my right midfield position, I certainly include Mark Preston. Mark was a great player on the right-hand side of midfield, such a quick, fit, technically decent, played at Hayes in the conference, knew his stuff, came with great pedigree. I definitely see Mark. I know Neil Thomas, who'll certainly get mentioned later on, is able to play on the right side where required. And there's also players that's already been mentioned. Sean Burnell, so I bit my lip a little bit on there. That's gone to your right back, so he's already playing, unfortunately. So we've got Sean in there, Tony Maychek, Paul Fields, both left and right, ex-Kilmarnock. Played a lot with Paul. We chose to have a tag team down in the Falklands with who went down there together. So myself, Freddie, Matty Allen, Phil Harris, we all discussed when we're going down the Falklands together. So Fields came out. We had some really good laughs down the Falklands. But I always thought Paul was a very gifted player on the field of play, left and right. And it was always good to have a heavyweight next to him to beat up the players perhaps they were playing with. But with the ball at his feet, I thought Paul was exceptionally talented. Scott Laurie, great right midfielder for me. Again, Scott can play in lots of different areas. Played at Forest when I was head coach there and impressed. But my right midfield is going to go to a lad who has been mentioned before. He is a personal friend that doesn't affect my decision. I've got many, many stories for him. I'm going to pick just the one or two to start with. So Holty goes to right midfield, Stu Holt. I come back from Germany in '97. He gets me along to Sutton. I go to Sutton, and we're in the Dr. Martins league, and we're middle of the table, there or thereabouts, probably below, and we're chasing our bums a little bit. Fortress Coles Lane is where we play for home games, and anyway, Stu's got us along to play centre midfield. Stu's playing wide right, and we're not scoring goals. So we're at training on Thursday. And you picture the scene, we're training hard, and Gary Bradder, who's ex-Gloucester, good lad, he's a gaffer with Dave Grundy, who's a grumpy old git. They're the gaffers, two of them. And they're shouting their arse at us, we're not scoring enough goals. And Holty gives him, are you having a fucking laugh here? Are you having a fucking laugh? Stick this right midfield at your arse. This is exact words. I remember it on a Thursday night in Sutton. He said, stick your right midfield at your arse, stick me up front on Saturday. We were top of the league, Stafford Rangers, Kevin Bond, ex-City, in charge. So we go to Stafford Rangers. He names a team. He's put Holty up top. I'm like, oh no. Desperate times. We've gone 4-5-1. Holty up at top. Stafford Rangers, big pitch, cages, the works. Not pleasant. It's not that he scored a goal after 3 minutes. We're 1-0 up, daylight robbery. The rest of the team hasn't touched it. I'm like, Jesus. Right, back to the ball. Anyway, get the ball in midfield. Goes out to the standing right midfielder. Delivers the ball to Holty. Chests it. Scores on the turn, 2-0, 12 minutes gone. I'm like, how am I get a result here? I might get a 2-2. Anyway, 21 minutes gone. Holty's beat a player, flicked it up outside the box and volleyed it top right as you look. I'm like, oh no, beat me up now. It's 3-0 up against top of the league. Holty scored a hat-trick. And he goes over to the bench, he goes, stick that up your arse, brother, to the gaffer. I'm like, oh my God. Anyway, we won the game 3-1. And I had to go out with Holty that night in Birmingham. You had to be there, obviously. But great story, great quality. England schoolboys. Went to Canada, got another story there, but I probably haven't got enough time. But some great stories with Holty. But he gets it for his ability, his fitness, as was discussed earlier. But what a lad. And on the football pitch, he'd get in my team all day long.
If he just had a little bit of self-confidence, I think he would have been okay. You'd have played with him in the Colts Wilks, wouldn't you?
Oh, he's absolute character, wasn't he? Just a bundle of energy and a bundle of attitude. But fantastic guy and great to be around. He's the type of guy you want in your squad. So, you'd always smile when Holty's around.
Brilliant. Gilly, you remember Holty at all?
I remember Holty, yeah. I remember on a RAF tour to Washington one year. We went out on a few beers, and as you do, you split up in little groups, and we're walking from one bar to the other. And as I'm looking across, there's this police car with its lights flashing. Fella up against the side of the car. Fella's asking him for his ID, so I looked across. I thought, he looks familiar. So across the road, I had a look, and it was Stu Holt, wasn't it? Doing what only Holty could do, doing his best for UK-US relations. we had a quick word, and I think he managed to get away with that one. I think, but I don't know what he done to this day. I don't know what he done to to be pressed up against a police car in the middle of Washington. But that's Holty for you, isn't it? Good choice, Matty. Good choice. Good player.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, good player. Very good player. I would argue with your Fortress. Well, no, in fact, I wouldn't argue with your Fortress Coles Lane because nobody wanted to come there. Oh my god. Yeah. Who you got playing on the other side, mate? Who's got the left one for you?
Okay, we're going to go left of the week. Yeah, again, a very talented area. And one I looked at right-footed players as well that can come in and cut in because there's talent of players that can play left midfield and with maybe predominantly left can play on left midfield with a right peg. But again, I'll name some names. I know Tomo's played up there. We've had Paul Cofield. I don't know if you remember Copes.
Yeah,
north of the border. Very talented, short-ish type player, but what an engine. Great quality, technically astute. And I like watching Kofi. I played a couple of games with him as I was coming out of the sort of RAF career. He was coming in. Lovely lad, great quality. Johnny Watkins, superb engine, as we see, beast of a player, certainly comes into the reckoning. Alex Woodhouse, also a centre midfielder, great left peg, great engine. So modern day, as we are, still competing as we talk as we are right now. So he came in the reckoning. Sean Pennell, we mentioned, he came in my reckoning as well, as did Scott Laurie. But what my number three, and joint number two, let's say, was currently Jake Goslin. Jake is a quality player. I saw him recently for the combined when they came over at Shape training, and I saw him also at the RAF when they did inter-service boot camp at Shape. Very, very talented. Personally know Jake anyway, but what a good player, and certainly going to be the player for the future for the Royal Air Force, where they build a team with him in it and perhaps around him, depending on who's building the team. But great technically, very, very quick, very Mo Salah-alike. But duck feet, Andy Martin, for me, great engine, in at number two, really up there, Andy. Because on his day, Andy was a really, really rapido guy. And what was funny about Andy is he'd always train like he played. So if you were in his way in training, God forbid, you were getting your feet trod on, you were getting your ankles trod on. But ultimately, my left midfield went to Scotty Taylor. Scott, a talented player going forward. Left and right peg. Obviously close as a friend, but that again was separated in my thought process. But in the type of attacking team I know we're looking for offensively, Scott would be on the other flank, attacking with left and right peg. And obviously got many stories about young Scott. Sat Taylor, I think me and BJ used to name him in Bruggen. But just a real short one, I'll choose it because I know we're doing on the old time, is Scott comes over to Germany. Second touch was over, obviously, a tackle in their days. He comes over, we introduce him to our civic club, to our gaffer who doesn't speak any English. I said, young Scotty, schnell machen. She's obviously very quick. And Scotty got into the squad, didn't get into the team. And we'd have quite a few nights out, rightly or wrongly, probably not the night before the game was ideal. We were out in Roermond in Holland one evening, and we had a game on a Sunday because that's the league. And Scott said, I think you're injured tomorrow. I said, no, it's, if you start your game, you're on full dibs, €200, 200 Deutschmarks then, as your premier point. If you don't start, you're on the bench, you're on half, so 100. So I said, I'll probably declare myself fit as long as we don't have too many tonight. Anyway, 4:30 in the morning, we get a taxi back from Roermond to the base. And I said, I'll see you at 9, Scotty. We're off to Guyler's, down to Guyler's, declare myself fit, got a calf injury, can hardly walk, to be fair. I'm in the team, Scotty's on the bench. He's absolutely mortified. I'm never fucking laughing at you. He said, have you not told him about your calf? I said, I'll be right for the first 5, we'll see how it goes. Scotty's fucking living. So I started, he started me 3, right of 3 in midfield, the Joe Montana's, great guy, ex-pro, the Bundesliga. Anyway, 5 minutes, it's 0-0, 5 minutes. I go, Joe, nicht good. My Wechselseite, nicht good. I've got Wechsel. Joe goes, Scotty, schnell machen, get changed. Wechsel. Scotty comes on, scores 4, wins 4-0. Scotty gets half dibs. I'm sitting there. Well done, Scotty wins the game for the Germans. But what a great player for me in my service football. And I know there's a lot of fans of Scott, but I think coming to Germany really, really helped his game. Because he was always quick and he always did a right peg. But literally his second touch was a tackle when he came to Germany. But the German type of game really helped him when he came back to play in UK, because it understood about controlling the ball, looking up, making that pass. And you could see that development even in '96 when he came over, of how we played over there in the German league. And certainly gets my left midfield slot. Great lad, great player, great friend.
Very good. Wilkes?
Yeah, great choice. Played for Scotty for years, and first played with him at Lincoln United. So that was before he went across to Germany. I would agree, Matt. His game changed, but he had that much ability. He could change with it as well. So another great choice, Matt. So that makes Gilly's choice a bit more difficult, I would think. But let's leave it there.
I saw him scribbling away there.
Did you do that, Craig?
He's killed me. He's absolutely killed me. Yeah. Thanks for that, Matt. Yeah. I mean, what can you say about Scotty? You know, he was a pleasure to. He's a pleasure to coach, because I think Scotty came into the RAF squad as I was finishing through injury, really. And yeah, it was always a pleasure to work with Scotty. But yeah, you really have put a cap right amongst the pigeons as far as my strikers are concerned. But I'll cover that off when we get to the two up top. Great choice, Matty. Great choice.
That's great.
I've got a couple of things on Scotty. So I think it's a real accolade to Scotty. It's quite hard for a service footballer to be picked in a select 11 for a civic club. And I saw something the other day and said Scotty Link for Stamford, and he's been picked as one of their a sub in their all-time kind of 11, which I think is a massive, great kind of honour. But also the other thing, and it's the thing that we touched on a couple of weeks ago about, you know, not necessarily being picked early, and Scott was never picked for the Colts. If you bring it up with him, it does stick in his throat a little bit, but he was never picked for the Colts. So I think that's always quite interesting, you know, if you're just not fancied by a certain gaffer along the way. So.
Promise we'll mention it.
I'll edit that out for him, it's okay. So, Matty, obviously number 8's taken with the armband, penalty takers. Who have you got playing alongside? Centre midfielders, mate. Who's in the centre midfield?
I'll give you two at the same time. So centre midfielders I looked at again in detail, and as much as I'd like to, I just didn't have that ability to get in that position. But it was great playing with some of the players that, you know, are named. Neil Thomas definitely up there. Tomo, technically for me, superb, influenced games. Not just service, but he influenced League of Wales games. Was very well thought of, and I definitely have Tomo in my consideration. Along with Geordie Selkold, you know, I played with Geordie intersection at Bruggen, station at Bruggen, even in his ripe old age and my young age as it was then. And definitely Geordie came into my consideration for that centre of the park. I did Fields again, Daz Bray, some great players. I know of Dave Woods. I played with and against Dave, albeit for a limited amount of time, but I know he's extremely well thought of. Very hard and no shit Sherlock type player. And you put the right pairing together, and he would be in as well. So Dave Woods came into consideration again, as did Alex Woodhouse and Sean Pennell, Tony Maychek, Fields again. But certainly my first consideration was just I was going to go left and right really, and I could have played an infant or back, but I went with Steve Thompson, number 8 for me. I played with Steve maybe twice. So not massively experienced, but I know enough about Steve. Went to see him in the Wickham game. Played at Wembley, MOM. Got tickets with Sean Nevin, who was his best mate at the time. Played against him when I was at Uxbridge, living at Uxbridge. He was at Holton, and he had a game in the evening, so he was having a little bit of warm up playing for Holton. I knew he was obviously playing. We had a bit of a laugh before, so what you played in this game for? Because you've got a game tonight. And he wasn't seen for 75 minutes. They were 2-1 down, 15 to push. Free kick, 25 yards out. I thought, all right, just stand tall in the wall. Just stand tall. At the Holton on the stadium. Tomo's taking it. I'll just stick my head. Top corner, top right as you look. I was like, 2-2. So Holton without a team. But Tomo, I think, was just an exceptional all-round centre midfielder. Certainly offensively, very active. probably didn't see him or play with him in his prime, but I know enough about him to certainly get a place in my shirt. Would definitely play in the centre of the park. In addition to Stevie Thompson, again, it depended on how I was going to set my team up. But again, I was thinking how I would set it up very offensively. This player, very, very talented, quite a close friend of mine, exceptionally good in Civi, in the Civi world. But again, in his heyday, he would definitely get in my team. That's Daz Robertson. So Daz, you get in with Stevie Thompson as a centre midfielder. Extremely talented in the air, extremely quick over the ball, over the park, with the ball at your feet. Could break defences down by one slip of a pass. And I remember that game after the horrific accident that we all are aware about in New Zealand, when you played that game and you scored a hat-trick, perfect hat-trick in New Zealand with those 35,000 watching. And that was one of the best service games I've seen you play. But that was on the right-hand side of midfield. However, your ability to play up front and the centre of the park, that we did many times back in the day for Strike, certainly, and a couple of games for the Air Force, when you keep bothered to turn up, you were exceptional. So hats off to you, mate, and credit where credit's due. But you take Stevie Tomo as the 8 and you as my, let's call it 6.
Superb, Matt.
I'm not going to argue.
I mean, well done, Robbo, for getting in that choice. Nightmare of a choice, that central midfield area. Perhaps Tomo, for me, would have been best in a modern game in a 10 slot, but he could play anywhere, you know what I mean? He had so much ability, and I think we all recognised that when we saw him play. Robbo, yeah, you've had a tremendous career in RAF football, and you know, certainly time at Newport, and that just shows the talent that you had in that squad. So well done, buddy. Well done, Matt.
Yeah, I'll agree with that and echo Wilky's words, really. Robbo, you know, a pleasure to play with you, because I played up front with you for the Air Force, I think, in your first game in London, I think. Yeah. And you can see, obviously, you had immense talent. I'm good play anywhere. And quite often you did play everywhere. And probably because you were such a utility player, that might not have given you did you any favours when it came to inter-service selection. However, you did obviously play in the inter-services, but your ability to play anywhere is one of your strengths, because you are a total footballer. You know, and I've said that in the past, and I've mentioned that on Facebook as well. So yeah, I couldn't agree more with that one, Matty. Great choice. You've actually killed me again with putting Tomo in midfield as opposed to up front. So I'll tune in next week and give you my favourite top 2. Tomo, again, me, Plucky, Mally, Tomo all played representative football at the same time. I played against Tomo in the conference as well when he was at Wycombe Wanderers, and it was the first opening game of the season. It was a season that Wycombe won the conference, got promoted to the Football League, and I was playing wide right for some reason for Merthyr, at Merthyr, and I was marking a lad called Guppy, Steve Guppy, and we went on to do a little bit in the game, I think. And I got dragged at half time anyway. That's how good. Either that's how good Steve Guppy was, or how poor I was. But I got dragged at half time. Wycombe went on and won the game 3-1. They got promoted to the Football League that season. And Martin O'Neill, nonetheless, bought Tomo out of the RAF and turned him into a pro. That's it, at the end of that season. I say bought him out of the RAF. I think he paid his PVR. And for me, yeah, probably in my time, probably if I have some front too.
Just struggling with the connection in Wales there, Craig.
You going through the tunnel down there, Craig?
I just put the 50p in the meter.
There you go, you're back.
Okay. Just sent Kathy to put the 50p in the meter. We should be okay now.
Excellent. It's I thought it was quite amazing, the longevity of Tomo at the quality he played as well. I didn't really play with him. I probably played with him 2 or 3 times. I think he's probably gone. I played with him in a testimonial game for Johnny Toogood. And I would have said he was probably 50, if not more, at that stage, and he was still running around like a kind of 22-year-old. It was a proper pedestrian, exhibition testimonial game, but he was still bombing around everywhere. There's only one person overtaking him, and that was Rhino. Because Rhino was still trying to overlap. Brilliant. Well done, Matty.
Yeah,
thanks a lot, mate.
Yeah, there's a few players just to wrap up really. So it was a particularly hard selection I played with myself, but I also considered certain nines to drop in and play with a holding midfielder. So I did look at, could Seddon drop in there, could Tappy. I looked at Mali as a holding centre midfielder because we know how technically sound Mali is, but of course he's already been selected as centre half. Mark Browse, I'm aware of as such a technically good player going forward. And also Mad Dog Maguire, who's obviously very close to all of our hearts in being able to play with him as a friend as well. So there's a few number nines that perhaps I looked at. Could I play him in the centre of the park with a defensive midfielder, in addition to the players that are already listed? So a tough but quite enjoyable challenge. So I appreciate it giving me the midfielders.
But you've left Gilly with some picks at least.
Yeah, thanks for giving Matty the midfield players and the strikers, Robbo. That's great.
Right then, Gilly. So obviously yours is a bit of a mix and match. We tried to even it up so you all had 4 picks each. So we'll start at right back the other end. So I'm sure you've slotted past many of these, and screamed at the others that you haven't slotted past. So who would you pick as your number 1?
Okay, mate. Well, I'm not sure if I've slotted past many of these because they were that good, to be fair. And also, I've played probably in shirts 2 to 11 over the years. And the first time I played in goal was for the Vets in the Home International tournament when Martin Piddington went down with a sniper after 20 minutes. But to be fair to him, Martin carried on. He played in the first 2 games in 2 days. I then had to play in the last game against England. I had to go on. And I now know why I've only played 2 to 11 and never played in goal before. Because it's a thankless task. And quite frankly, I had to call on some professional help when selecting this and get a little bit of sort of netminder inside knowledge. So I've gone with those that I've obviously played with and against over the years, and there are some great names here. Unfortunately, as I joined the Air Force in '86, I didn't get to see the great John Toogood play. I had the pleasure of coaching with him when Toogs was the RAF goalkeeping coach, and brilliant. He's such an enthusiastic, effervescent guy that, and all these years that he was at Northwood as well. I actually remember him playing, I think it was for Woking, in the FA Cup back in '78 or something, at the Vetchfield in the FA Cup against Swansea City. But from what I've heard, Toogs was out of this world. He was a different class. Not only known well for his goalkeeping prowess, but also for his rank underwear that he used to wear from training session to match. Never put it in the washer. And then the rest of the squad had to obviously make do with the pungent smells that came from those blue underpants, which I'll never forget. I'll just reel off a list of names, if I may, first, and then I'll just put a little bit of background to it. So my first experience, as I said, was into commands, the old President's Cup, as it was then out in Germany, which were fantastic tournaments. 3 squads of RAF footballers honing in on Rheindahlen or Gatto 3 weeks before Christmas. Squads of 24 plus backroom staff, with either Berlin or the Street of 1,000 Bars to look forward to post-match. What could possibly go wrong? And then at the end of that tournament, they picked the RAF squad for the year. So make out of that what you would. But anyway, so the first one I've got on the list is Derek Bragg. Now Derek was at Gatto, and he spent a lot of time at Gatto, and he actually played for Hertha Berlin probably on a semi-pro basis, obviously, because he went on that sign pro contract back in the day. But I know that Hertha Berlin wanted to sign him out of the Air Force, and they were adamant that they wanted to get him. But fair play to Braggy, being very honest to his word, stuck with the RAF, and went on to have a great career after he left the Air Force in setting up his own scouting network, football scouting network, which is used by clubs across the country. So Braggy is definitely up there as one. Two players I played with at Hunger for Town, one from Bryce Norton, Mark Perry, and Kev Borlase, who was at Lynham with me. Both played at Hunger for Town, both great goalkeepers in their own right. And then I'm going to read through the list of Mickey Tonner, Martin Bonner, who also was a great goalkeeping coach as well. And it's great to see him still involved and coming on to games as well as part of the family. Dave Wall, Nick, Ben Truman, who sadly, I played with Ben for command and for the RAF, but Ben left the Air Force probably about 2 or 3 years after I joined, unfortunately. I would like to have played with Ben for a lot longer than I did. Great keeper. Chris Deans, Bob Hunt, Sean Cooper, Ron Millam, James Saxton, Andy Niven, Mark Bowen latterly, Stu Elgar, Mike Healy, Shifty. I think we all remember playing alongside Shifty. And I remember the tour to Thailand where he was roomed with Chris Roberts, and at the end of the day we had a players meeting, and you could just throw anything into the meeting wherever you wanted, any topic conversation. And Chris Roberts was desperate to get out, sharing a room with Shifty, and I don't know for what reason, and I won't go into details here, but for every night on that tour in the bar before we went out, Chris Roberts tried to get a divorce from Shifty Healy, and unfortunately he didn't succeed. So we had a room with him for the whole 2 weeks that we were there. But that was the ongoing line in there. But Shifty, great goalkeeper, great presence, a great character on and off the pitch as well. Sean Cooper, very talented sportsman, played cricket for the Air Force as well. Great pair of hands, great at crosses, given his physical stature. Ben Mears, who I had in Cyprus initially, and then I think he went on and played for the Air Force when he came back from Cyprus. Another good goalkeeper, very great shot stopper. But there's two which stand out, and that is Martin Bonner and Nick Truman. Nick was a great shot stopper, very agile. Martin, very commanding, great distribution. And it's really a flick of a coin, really, on those two who I pick. And I'm probably going to go with Martin Bonner, simply because I spent more time with Martin than I did with Nick, unfortunately, because Nick, as I said, left the Air Force quite soon after I joined. But Martin gets my vote, albeit in very esteemed company there. And it was Martin, unbeknown to him, that was helping me put this goalkeepers list together in the first place. But I came up with most of them, but he did throw a figure in at the end. So I'm going to go with Martin Bonner, very closely followed by Nick Truman. And I wish I'd seen Johnny Toogood in his pomp.
Yeah, great choices, Gilla. Again, I had the pleasure of managing at Carterton with Bonzo and played many games under Bonzo at Strike Command. Phil Harris was around at that time as well, and Phil obviously stretched a few of the goalkeepers, and he keeps himself fit now, Phil does. So no doubt now he's back. He'll be back on the vets scene, and we'll see him around. So yeah, it'd be good to see Bonzo, and I think he's a great choice, buddy.
Yeah, well done, Craig. Yeah, good choice there. I thought it was a tough position. I had four shortlisted really in my head. I had Johnny Toogood, who I was at Northwood with, albeit his last career, but again, agree with all the words you gave him there. A personal favourite was Bobby Hunt, because I saw some good years with Bob in RAFFA G, and of course he kept Bobby Mims out before he joined the Air Force for Halifax. So Hunt, he had a great previous joining the Air Force, and I saw some great in-service and for Dutch civvy sides performances with him in the same team that I thoroughly enjoyed. Obviously Phil Harris, that we see lots of, and we all know love Phil when he plays, and he's still playing God bless him all these years. But Bonzo, yeah, some really good laughs, albeit quite heated at times in the Belgian away games for the Air Force or Strike Command, but absolutely tremendous memories and some great stories of mine. But his ability to command the back four and ultimately 1 to 11, the 2 to 11 that he's not. When he's on the pitch, he can command the whole team from his position, which not many keepers can. So I always admire his ability to do that, as well as his physical ability to keep the ball out of the net, which is kind of what you want from the keeper as well. So great choice, mate. Well done.
Yeah, he always did well to command the pitch for such a quiet, shy, retiring individual. Couldn't really hear him. Come on in, Gilly. Into your expertise then. Talk us through your 2 game winners.
Okay, mate. Well, I actually got two. I've got 2 other goalkeepers to add to that. One was Phil Harrison, and it was Paul Buttery. So I apologise for leaving those off the list. And I'm sure there's many more. And if I have missed you, I do apologise. Okay, onto the match winners then. Onto the Glory Boys. I've gone with as I say, the 2 up top. So I've gone with a sort of a Toshak and Keegan, sort of Crouch and Rooney, if you like, a sort of target man and a little and large combination. Well, that was my thinking. But then when I listed the number of strikers I've played with or coached over the years, well, 2 have obviously been picked to play midfield, so that's killed me straight away. Thanks, Matty. But when I looked at it, I thought, right, I'll break it into target men and others. All right. So the target men I've gone for are Jimmy Barron, God rest his soul, who I played with at Strike Command and for the Air Force. Brian Evans, fellow PTI, strong as an ox. I think his quads were bigger than my chest at one stage, once upon a time. Great target player, could hold the ball up for fun and just let people join in, and a great link player. Sammy Leonce, of course, who, as well as being a great footballer, could certainly, hold a tune on the karaoke as well. I think was evidenced in Cyprus on one tour particularly, and up in Naya Napa, if I remember rightly. Probably, this player probably had one of the best first touches I've ever seen. And I'm not talking about service football, I'm talking about ever. And that is Darren Shalaka, often referred to as Velcro because his first touch was that good. Everything you threw at him just stuck. And a great goal scorer as well. And he had a great sort of career up in Scotland, I know. And Matt, you might be able to come in on this, but I know he scored lots of goals in the Scottish third division, I think it was.
Exceptionally well thought of at Elgin, and certainly it was his back end of his career. He came to Forest, but he made a great name for himself in the Scottish Highland League. And when I went there as a coach, he'd been established, and the players I was coaching, they knew of him as a goal scorer, out and out goal scorer, and he holds an awful lot of credibility up there. So yeah, 100% substantiated. Absolutely.
Another one who was a great target man, and still is actually, still doing it for Wales Vets on a regular basis, and I think he's their top goal scorer in their Vets League in Wales. A partner in crime on and off the pitch, and I'll leave it at that. Freddie Fredrickson, great personality, again really effervescent, non-stop, 90 minutes, very talented, and again a great finisher. So Freddie was another one. Others worthy of mention, Daz Roberson. But of course, you've been picked in midfield, so I can't pick you either. Steve Thompson, shock. Mark Browse was a great friend of mine, and still is. We'll obviously less of him now, but really talented lad. He was at Ipswich Town as a pro back in the day, young pro. And again, a bit like Robo, just made things look so simple. Always seemed to have time and space on the ball. Could pick a pass out for fun, and a great striker back in the day. Stevie Tapp, Danny McDonald, Matt Hopkin, Paul Clegg, Darren Morrow, Darren Colwell, Dave Idden, Robbie Eccles, Adam Lillis, who probably I didn't think got the recognition he deserved, but did great for me out in Cyprus. Mike McNamara, Macca, Scott Laurie, Stevie Norton, again, who I had out in Cyprus, and then went on to play in the RAF. and of course Gary Tweedy, who I've since got to know a little bit better through the vets. I haven't included wide players because I thought Matty might have done that, so because he's done everything else. But I've also included Kev Bailey, could also play up top. Darren Broad, young John Watson, played for us for a while and came on tour, I believe, to South Africa. Danny Lawrence, and of course not forgetting our very own Gareth Seddon. So to pick 2 from that lot, as you can see, although Matty's done me a favour and at least got rid of 3 of them, was no easy task really, if I'm honest with you. Danny McDonald up in Scotland had a great career non-league with Inverness Caledonian before they matched up with Thistle to go into the Pro League. I remember playing with Danny out in Belgium for the Combine Services, and we'd drawn at home against the Dutch 1-1, and I think the Belgiques had beaten the Dutch in the first game, so we had to beat the Belgiques basically. And I played up front with Danny, and I can't remember who was in goal, but he launched the ball from a goal kick. I've gone up, headed the ball, landed, and the ball was ended up 30 yards in our half. But Danny stood there laughing at me. So I jobbed it on and thought nothing more of it. Second goal kick, goes up to the centre half, heads the ball, lands, ball's gone 25 yards in our half. Danny's almost bent over now in stitches. I said, "What's happening, Danny?" I said, "I'm heading the ball." I said, "And the ball's ended up in our half." He said, "No, what's happening, mate, is," he said, "you go in, you jump in with the centre half, you're heading his chest, and he's literally head and shoulders above you, and he's launching it into our half." So I thought nothing more of it. So anyway, yeah, finished the game, had a great night out, as you do in Belgium, got back. And later in the year, I'm watching Italia 90, Belgium against, I'm not sure who, to be perfectly honest with you. And they bring this sub on. Number 3, squad number was. And I'm sat watching it with my dad, and I said, "I know him." He said, "What do you mean you know him?" I said, "I know him, I know that fella." He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "I played against him." He said, "Don't be so stupid." He said, "This is the World Cup." He said, "World Cup finals." He said, you don't get to play against people like that." I said, "I played against him." I said, he said, "How do you mean?" I said, "I'm sure I played against him at the Combine Services." And he's the fella who, when I was going up and heading, he was head and shoulders above me, and I was heading his chest. So fair enough. So he put your board up, on he goes, name comes across the bottom of the screen, Philippe Albert. So I goes upstairs, gets the old match day programme out and shows it to the old man. He said, "Yeah, fair play." So I then rang Danny McDonald and said, "Danny, you never guess who's on the telly, mate." He said, "Who's that?" He said, "That's that fellow whose chest I headed for 90 minutes against Belgium out in the years." So that was a little tale about Danny McDonald. But to get down to business, because I know time's pressing, I'll tell you who my front 2 were going to be. They were going to be Stevie Thompson and Scott Taylor. But you killed me. For the reasons that we've already mentioned, Stevie Thompson, different class. There's no surprise that he went pro and had a career that he had. Scotty Taylor had everything. For me, he was good in the air. He was quick. He had a decent first touch when he came back from Germany, obviously. He could finish. He was aggressive. And to me, he was a great all-round striker. And he formed a formidable striking partnership. Probably the best striking partnership I've seen in the Air Force as a pair were him and Chris Maguire. Yeah. And Chrissy and Scott complemented each other superbly well. And I remember an inter-service game at Cosford where we beat the Navy 5-0. And those two just ran riot. And they were different class on the night. Just ripped the army to pieces. So they would be my best pairing, Chris Maguire and Scotty. But as individuals, I would go for Stevie Thompson and Scott Taylor. However, someone I haven't mentioned, who's dear to our hearts, especially recently in more recent times, is Gareth Seddon. Sed's great character. In one of those team meetings at 6 o'clock in the night before we went out, Plucky was injured, I think. So Plucky went along as sort of like physio and social representative, if you like. And Plucky said, look, day one, I'm not too fussed really about doing this social rep thing. If anybody wants to do it, I'm more than happy to take the back seat, and then someone else can run the social events for the tour. So of course I expected Bobby Green to step forward and, all the bigger, larger than life characters. And this 18-year-old waif stands up and said, I'll do it. Gareth Seddon. And as you say, not lacking in confidence, he basically wanted to take and run the show for the tour, for the first tour he's ever been on. He'd only been in the Air Force about 3 months, I think, just finishing his PTI course. And typically Gaz led us on a few parties, one of which ended with him about 3 o'clock in the morning eating street food, beetles, spiders, grasshoppers, deep fried on a skewer, ate a lot. Gaz being Gaz, he ended up having about 1 pound 4 ounces of these things, big bag, scoffed a lot on the way back to the hotel, and never played again on tour. He was in his room for 4 days solid. George Frizzell, to his credit, being the medic, babysat him for 4 days. Sedge was out for the count. And basically, before he'd gone away on that tour, his agent had told him that Reading were going to offer him a contract. They were in the playoff final whilst we were out there. Gaz never played again, as I said. George had to get a wheelchair to wheelchair him onto the coach to get him to the airport. We wheeled him through the terminal to get him through departures, managed to get him onto the aeroplane, wheeled him off the aeroplane again at Heathrow to go and meet his agent, who was waiting for him at the airport, only for him to be told by his agent that Reading had lost the playoff final and they'd cancelled his contract. As it turns out, he ended up playing pro at Bury and Rushden and Diamonds and had a great career. But his career came to a halt for about 2 years when he went down with this mysterious virus, had blood disorders. And I still think to this day, it was that 1 pound 4 ounces of deep fried scorpion that he had in Thailand that messed up his system. So, my top two out of all that, I'm going to go with Chris Maguire and Gareth Seddon as my top two.
Unfortunately, we've got no time for comments on that, lads, because Craig's just been speaking for the last hour and a half.
Sorry, mate, you did ask.
I don't think you'll get much argument with those two.
No, I actually thought it was a tough task, Craig, because it depended on how you went with it, depending who came in your selections, but it's really tough to put a challenge against those two. And I certainly agree with him, Maguire and the Scott partnership. I saw a similar game at Aldershot where we smashed them 5-0 and then went back to Uxbridge and partied quite long into the night. So the Scotty and Mad Dog was a great partnership going forward, but obviously personal attributes and picking an 11 is always difficult. But I wouldn't. I think Sammy and Tappy are definitely there or thereabouts for me in their abilities. But on those individual two, I'd go with you on that for sure. Well done, mate.
Yeah, I mean, my best game that I ever saw Mad Dog play was that in-service warm-up against Farnborough, where he absolutely battered him. I think he scored 5 on that night or something like that.
That's right.
Someone played in that game as well. Yeah, it was great. Great choices, Gilly. Like them.
Yeah. Well, Middleborough 11, I think. Some good choices all around. So, Gilly, I'm going to ask you to just name your super sub, just to cap this off. If you can keep it short, that'd be much appreciated, my friend.
What are you trying to say, Dad?
I have got work tomorrow.
Okay, I'll keep it short then. Someone who could turn a game, whether he started or came on a sub, and very rarely did he start a game on the bench, and that would be Steve Tapp.
Probably one of the coolest people I've seen in the penalty area. Probably too cool sometimes. Took that shoulder drop into the evening on the dance floor as well. Yeah, I wouldn't argue with that.
Yeah, well played. For sure, yeah. Some great times actually hooked up with Tappy in Germany as well for the early 02. But before that, had some great times doing his running for him when Dave McDermott decided to play him centre midfield which in Tappy's language was, you got a free roll playing behind the front two and don't defend. So Matty, I remember a game at Uxbridge, and it got to a point, it was that obvious I was marking 2 players in the centre of the park, and Tappy was having a big fag until the ball came in our final third. We both burst out laughing in the middle of the game because it was that bad that I was covering it. But what a player with the ball at his feet. And when you watched him, because you'd watch him with the ball at his feet, it wasn't rocket science, but he managed to turn defenders inside out, and then again, and then again, and you'd be thinking, is that shoulder roll that really that good? But sure enough, it was, and even down to Sunday League, saw him playing sweeper, a cool, calm customer, and a very good friend, and deserves a place in that squad for sure.
So there wasn't too much arguing going on there, was there? But any of those picks, apart from Matty picking all the centre forwards to play in midfield, it's going to be an attacking 11, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So I feel sorry for Bonzo. It's lucky we got 2 animals, Jeff and Mally, to keep it out at the other end. Obviously, there's a lot of strong characters that you do get with service football and people that experience. So who would we see? I kind of see it in my eyes as pretty one standout candidate to take the armband there. But what would be your thoughts, leader of men out of that 11?
For me?
Go on in, Craig, yeah.
Because I haven't spoken for a while. I think Jeff Hancock gets it for me, I think. As I say, he was my first skipper for the Air Force and Strike Command, and bar that argument that we had in that first game at Uxbridge, he's a pure leader, both on and off the pitch, sets very high standards, he's very amiable and affable, as we know, and as I said, when he just before he received his RAFFA XI cap, I can't think of anybody really who could be a better ambassador for RAF football than Jeff Hancock's, both when he played and since he's retired. So for me, bit of a no-brainer really. And there are probably 11 leaders there, if I'm honest, in that team. But Jeff Hancock gets my vote.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Gilly. I think Jeff, for me, can just talk to people at different levels, and he's such an ambassador. I don't think he's got anybody that I'm aware of who's ever disliked Jeff. Absolutely ferocious competitor, but as a player off the pitch, great ambassador for RAF football, and we're lucky to have him on board with others, the vets. So great captain choice for me.
Yeah, echo Craig's comments, echo Wilky's comments exactly. I also agree. There are many leaders in that 11 for sure when you look at them individually. But again, to pick a leader to lead those, for me, 100% Jeff. He's certainly the one you'd want on your side, not against you. So fully concur with what's been said. Great choice.
Yeah, great leader, great captain. I think he just needs to work on his geography. Not understanding the travelling distance from Gloucester to Barry was always like a little bit of a stumbling block for him, I thought. You would have thought you have to travel through 2 time zones, a blazer and a signing on fee just to get into Wales.
Oh, cheap digs, always good.
We always love a cheap dig. Brilliant. So just finally, because this has been the longest one, but then I kind of expected it would be. So the single best player that you've ever had the privilege or pain in the arse to kind of manage or play with, just one player for whatever reason. Gaffer, start with you.
Well, for me, Robbo, it goes to Al Pluckrose. Al was unbelievable. In any position I ever saw him play, he was just first class. So great gentleman, great mentor to me on the pitch when I was young. And it'd be good to catch up with Al at some point, but yeah, fantastic player.
Gaffer?
Service football we're referred to, aren't we here?
Indeed,
yeah. It's when I took the LRT role for a while, and when I was fortunate enough to have Scott and Russ as my UT coaches as backroom staff then, and when they departed, one of my leaving speeches was it was a quite a well-known subject or topic that one of the best players, or the best player I ever had the honour to play with, station, command, service, and CS, and also civvy, was Scott Taylor, for all his superb attributes on the pitch. So taking away all the closeness perhaps we have off it, it's just for me, he could just change a game. And he would definitely, I'd rather him on my side than against me. So Scott Taylor, 100%.
Rosini?
No, two good choices, I think, and two which I'd agree with. But for me, I will go with Steve Thompson, Tomo. I think the fact that he was signed as a pro by Martin O'Neill from the Air Force, from military football, speaks volumes, really. And he was, for me, head and shoulders above that group of players at that time, and set high standards again. You know, he was one who taught me really, you know, to train as you play. And we used to turn up at Uxbridge the morning of a game and in the evening, and Tomo would train in that session as if he was, you know, he had a full kit on, and he was playing under lights in front of, you know, 5,000 for Slough or for Yeovil or whoever he played for. And yeah, technically outstanding. Great guy on and off the pitch, and again had some very enjoyable tours and post-match events with him. But for me, Stevie Thompson.
Fantastic. Brilliant, gents. That time has flown. I've really enjoyed the last kind of hour and a half. Just want to thank you for taking the time out of your Sunday and for the research. Wilkes especially, coming up with the stats, Wilk, that's impressive. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Brilliant. Just want to say, you know, kind of just to everyone, stay safe. Obviously, hopefully, in fact, Gilly, you've kept us talking, so we've led right into Boris's speech in about 5 minutes. Well done, buddy.
Can I just add just two final things? But I know I've spoken a lot this afternoon. Just two things. First of all, does anybody know where I can get a cheap pair of clippers? This lockdown haircut's not suiting me at all. And secondly, Matty, you need to have a word with your interior decorator, mate, because I think he's missed a bit. He's missed a bit on the painting there, mate, on the walls. Thank you, Robo. I've enjoyed it, mate. Thank you for the invite.
That's brilliant. Really appreciate it. Stay safe. Stay safe, everybody. Hopefully, you'll enjoy what the guys have gone through and comment about it. I'm sure everyone's got their own picks. Again, it's only opinions. So, yeah, brilliant. Thanks, everybody, for watching. All right, everybody, take care. Take it steady.